Today, we are joined by a man who says he feels rejuvenated after recent health issues. We talk about how he went from racing three-wheelers to dirt track cars, friends and family along the way, and the rejuvenation of dirt track racing in our area. This week's guest is the driver of the number 25, Mr. Jim Philpot.
At the end of Trader Trail, just north of town. Bench racing with friends, that's how we get down. If it's dirt track stories you're looking for, then tune right in. This is Talking with Trader. Let's begin. All cars on the train.
Were real tall in it, so you had about this much room to get in there. And until he got hung up in it, he leaned inside of it, and his belly got over it. He couldn't get out, and they had to drill the car and drill the doors off of it to get him out. So I don't let him live that down. I don't know if you remember Johnny Mitchell used to have a boy that run with him. He was a pretty good sized guy. That's been many years ago. He worked at the I think John Deere place. Cannot remember what.
I think I know who you're talking about.
The good sized boy. He kept betting me.
Younger guy?
Yeah. Kept betting me he could get in my car. And I said, no, you can't. He goes, yes, I can. Well, he got in there, and we couldn't get him out. We like to never got him out.
Take the roof off.
Well, the next week I was racing, and I come in the pits. We're taking the belts up and everything out of the car. His billfold was still under the seat.
Really?
It was under my seat, and I found it in there, and I went walking up there and I said, is this yours? He goes, I've been looking for that. That billfold was underneath the seat of my race car.
Yeah, I can't remember that boy's name. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah,
That's another one, Johnny going, you know.
You know, he worked for me up there for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
And at that time, we were having a big discussion about the heart problems. And he was having high blood pressure then, and he would not go get anything done about it. I said, Johnny, it's going to get you. You know, it did. See, I was in Little Rock. I was in Little Rock in the hospital up there, and it may have been the heart deal, my deal, but Tim and Marilyn Manus called me and tell me that he had passed, and I didn't know he had passed either.
Yeah,
they got a hold of me up there.
Look at
We have coasters, so I made you one.
Who makes these?
I got that picture from your Facebook page.
Oh, cool deal. Some boy sent that to me, that picture, Chris something. Never met him or anything. He said, He said, I met you a long time ago. And he said, but I was just a kid. I thought, well, that makes me feel old. But he had made all of that and sent them. He sent me about 2 or 3 different pictures. He said, I've been working AI. And he said, I like your cars. He said, so I wanted to make you something.
I was down.
He done
Me
all
and
that.
Justin was down Brax, and Cecil has one that somebody made him.
Yeah.
It looks just,
It looks just like him.
Cecil.
Like Cecil?
Yeah.
Boy, that's scary. Well, see, I met him way back when I was racing three-wheelers and four-wheelers. I rode for Honda for, I think, 6 years. And that's when I had met him and his boy. And that was in 83, 84. A long time ago.
I am going to ask you some questions, but we could just talk.
That's fine.
I always ask everybody the same question first, actually. How did you get the number 25?
That was actually my baseball and football number coming up, and it's always been my number. My pastor the other day told me, because we got our little codes there at the church, and I told him, I said, you know, pretty much my number is 25. He said, well, that's the number of love. And I didn't realize that.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
So I thought that was pretty cool on that deal. But I've had that number ever since I was growing up, playing baseball and football and everything.
So did you go home and tell your wife that that's the number of love?
Yeah, she didn't believe me.
About right.
What about Heath's number? He drives number 5. Is there any significance to that number?
If you look on his 5, it's got a small 25 on the back side of it.
So you just use your number.
My very first number I ever had out here at Tri-State was 5, because at that time another boy was running 25.
Okay.
So I went to 5. Well, he started out with 5, and he said, Dad, when you quit racing, then I'll take the 25, but not until then. So
that's good.
I've been trying to give it to him for quite a while. He won't take it.
Not ready, is it?
No, I think it's pretty cool seeing the 525.
Oh, yeah.
This year, his big deal was he wanted us to have cars just alike, same color. So he did all the graphics and everything in his head. So that was all him.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty
They
cool.
look good. Turned out neat and clean.
Very clean, and I love the cars. The car I got, he kept telling me he would take it because Phipps had built us the brand new one. And I'm really comfortable in that car, so
Right.
I didn't want to give it up. So it's kind of hard. So I said, "Why don't we build this one for you? And whatever you want, that's what we'll put in it and do." And that's what we did. Man, he's got a really nice car. I'm dreading racing against him because he's going to be pretty fast.
I was going to ask you what it's like racing against him all the time.
That is pretty much the ultimate. That's kind of what a dad always looks for. If you can competition with your son.
Right.
But I tell you what, he takes it to a whole nother level. If it's
He's a little more serious.
I think it's been a few years ago, but we were running hard and he used me up. Me and him were real competitive on anything we do together. We were racing 4-wheelers at Poto, and man, he dove that dude off in there and about broke my ankle. He about wiped me out. Then the race was on because I wasn't about to let him beat me.
Right.
So we had to. But
so what about the transition from the 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers to cars? How did that take place?
The way that took place was Danny Lively.
Mm-hmm.
Danny, he's raced everything. I think.
Right.
He was kind of one of my mentors. I always looked up to Danny because he could get in anything and drive it. But they had talked me into driving their modified. I'd been running, the 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers all that time, and Danny said, "You need to get in the car."
What year was that? Like how long ago?
Oh man, I don't know. It would have had to been 83, 84. I mean,
While back.
like a lifetime ago.
Right.
But
Literally, that's when I was born.
really,
Literally my lifetime ago.
you probably don't remember that. But we went to Fayetteville, and they had talked me into getting in his modified. So it was him and Randy. They had built this car, and we get up there, and I know nothing about the modifieds and never sat in a car. Danny's instructed me on everything, and we get in it and go out on the track. Well, I start on the very back, and I think I made it up third or fourth that night.
Wow.
Well, I got his motor claimed. I knew nothing about this claim rule. So I pull up to the area, they're pointing me in, and I get up there, and he said, "You just got claimed." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You got your motor claimed." I said, "This is not even my car."
Oh, no.
He said, "Well, have you got your license?" I said, "My license is in the truck." He said, "You're supposed to have it on you." I said, "Why would I have it on me and lose it out here on the racetrack?" I said, in which White Manus was standing there going, "Just keep going with it." He said, they'll get mad, forget about it, and then they'll go ahead and pay you. Well, they didn't forget about it. They kept on. Come to find out, it was Sioux Racing that had claimed the motor.
Yep.
Well, Danny and Randy are over on the trailer dying laughing. They knew what was going on. So they come to find out Danny had claimed Sioux Racing the week before. And it was Danny's car, and they thought Danny was in it, so it's kind of a payback deal. But the official asked me, he said, "I need your license." I said, "I don't have my license with me." I said, "What license are you talking about?" He said, "IMCA license." I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." He said, "You got to have an IMCA license to get on the track." "How'd you get on the track?" And I said, "I sat in that seat, pushed the button up, it started up, and I drove out on the track." Well, he got a little upset with me. He said, "You better get that car loaded down." So they made me get it, put it on the trailer. And the whole time I get over there with Danny and Randy just rolling. Yeah, they had so much fun with that. But I think he set me up, is what I mean.
That was your first experience.
So were you hooked after that? Just
I had
started
to
racing?
have a car after that because that was so much more fun. made a whole lot more money on the 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers
Right.
than you do the cars. I mean, they paid really good for those back then. And, you know, we've done a bunch of nationals in Boyd, Texas, and we went everywhere on the 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers, and had good sponsorship on that stuff. Well, it kind of worked into the cars, and, you know, just kind of Danny them helped me a lot getting started, and
Pointed you in the right direction.
pointed me in the right direction. You know, it showed me setups and stuff on car. And back then, you know, you put a 1-inch socket on a jack, and you jack it up, get the wedge.
I just explained that to somebody this week.
Everybody looks at you like you're crazy
Right.
now. Well, that's the way we used to set these cars up. Get the
Got
wedge
no
in
scales.
and everything. We didn't have scales.
No.
You didn't have power steering back then either.
Talking about the 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers, I had a guy tell me a while back, asking, he used to race with you guys, I think Rick Heath.
Yep.
And I said, why did you get out of that? And he said, because it got harder for me to get back on. He said, so the car was a little safer and a little more comfortable.
It was. The car was a whole lot safer. You know, in
Yeah.
which my wife, our first date, you know, I come and pick her up and take her to Boyd, Texas with me. And I have a major wreck there. I mean, flipped end over end, broke a collarbone, dislocated shoulder. She'd never pulled a trailer before, but she
Wow.
learned how to pull a trailer on the way back from Boyd because I couldn't drive. I was all taped
What
up.
a first date.
Yeah. So she got off in there pretty hard, and
And stuck with you.
she's hung in there for 38 years.
38 years. That's
She is
good.
a tough woman.
Yeah. Got me.
Yeah.
I wish I had my notebook because there's a couple things you mentioned that I want to go back to, and I'm going to try to remember them. You mentioned you didn't have scales and stuff back then,
No.
but you own Philpot Complete Car Care Center, and I guess my question is: as racing evolved with technology, do you think you had do you think you adjusted to that easier than other guys because you were using similar technology in your career?
My son adjusted to it. As far as me setting my cars up and stuff, no.
Mm-hmm.
Heath does all the setups on the cars. He'll watch me, and it was so cool because when he was a little guy, he could tell me what that car was doing.
Really?
So he was like, Dad, you need different spring.
Then you would go back to the socket.
Yeah,
So you-
I'd go back to the socket deal. And he's, you know, now
Right.
you got pull downs, you got
Little
scales,
yeah.
you got,
Yeah,
you know, it's
stick and everything.
stuff. And he'll go over there and he uses all this and he knows what he's looking at.
Right.
Well,
Makes a world of difference.
yeah,
Having
and
somebody like that on your side.
it sure makes the car a lot easier to drive.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's
For
just
sure.
the kids are so smart on
Oh.
this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's passed
Exactly.
me a long time ago.
Me
If
too.
it was me
The
setting that car up,
technology is so much. We went to Brandon Hunter's and he was showing me the load stick.
yes.
It blowed my mind.
Oh, we had to have that load stick.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you got to have
That's
all that
unreal.
stuff. But I would have no idea how to use it.
Oh.
I wouldn't even
Right.
know even where you
Yeah.
put it at on the car. But you know, they pull the cars in there and they set these things up, and you know, it's just
You know, Brandon
It's
kind of
unbelievable.
showed me a little bit about it. When I walked out, I didn't remember.
little shocks. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Brandon, Andy, Heath, these younger guys in that
Right.
age group
Mhm.
right there. They're sharp.
Well, nowadays
Set-
it's shocks and springs.
Yeah.
That's where it's at. It's shocks and springs. A lot of money spent right there.
The car that I've got is a Sniper Speed, which was Jeffrey Abbey.
Right.
He's out of Texas up there. And this last time I took it up to him, since it being his car, just let him go over the whole car and look over just to make sure, you know, which he found a bunch of bent parts. And it had happened in one of the wrecks that I really didn't think was that bad a wreck. But I just go back to Heath because the first thing he says, Dad, as soon as they come off the track, you got to tear them apart and go through everything on them. Well, I'm still old school.
Old school, exactly.
We had the $500 Camaro that we put out on the
Right.
track and had a ball with it, but you can't do that anymore.
No.
You can't compete.
You've both mentioned the younger generation. You mentioned Brandon and Heath. This is something I was thinking about earlier today. I got out of the Marine Corps in 2012. And when I came home, since I've came home, I've heard over and over again that this sport is dying. Is it fair to say that this sport was dying and it's coming back now?
I think it's coming back. I think it's making a turnaround. a lot of it is, some of the attractions went back to some of the old school classes, but you also have the big races for the cars, the money cars, or I guess you could say.
The super stocks, I think, was probably the ultimate class.
Yes,
I love the
I think
super
so.
stocks.
Think
These
so.
USRA, IMCA cars, you're basically, to me, it's basically a modified.
Right.
And
You're right.
because
With the
of
body,
amount of
full, the
setups
full
and
body.
everything that's on them. Though super stocks, man, anywhere you went, it was a great race. You come home, you load your car up, you take these USRA cars or the IMCA cars in the stock car division, and you go to a race, and when you load it up, you're lucky to load up all the car because they're tore all to pieces. They drive. I mean, they use the whole side of your car.
So
it's not like it used to be.
How do you compare the old, say, super stock class or Grand National class to the USRA stock car class?
I jumped back in a super stock in a heartbeat because the horsepower, the wider tires, and you didn't race the wide tires like you do these narrow tires.
Small tires.
If you got up against one of the wide tires, it'd correct you real fast. But they have found out that the smaller top tire that they could come in there and bank off of you or whatever. And it's not going to
less accidents.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of cars ran more than tires.
This class is really rough.
Yeah.
It's a pretty rough class. Which I love racing, so I'll get in there and beat my body back out or go.
What do you think about the sanctions, like USRA?
I don't like the tires.
That's what I hear a lot.
You're spending $200 a tire. I mean,
exactly.
And they're trying to make this affordable for everybody.
Yeah.
How can that be affordable when you can buy asphalt takeoff for $40 and groove it yourself or whatever?
Exactly.
I don't understand that thinking, but I think they get a kickback on their tires, so they make a little money off.
I think you're right. I always thought that maybe one of the tracks, and it's probably going to be proper because they kind of basically run their own rules. One of them will go back to that class, which they have their stock car class, which is based off of.
There's still a lot of super stocks out there.
I know some nice ones sitting around, which you do too.
Yeah.
Davlin's car. Those cars are so nice, and they quit racing after that.
You kind of feel like some of the good guys like that, the Davlins. I mean, I love racing with them. They were clean racers. You didn't go in there and expect them to take you out or anything. Right. I just feel like some of those guys got pushed out. And it's not the Davlins. They got the money. They could come back to the IMCA, but they spent so much on that class. Why would you want to? I mean,
well, we had before with IMCA with Monasco, and that was a big change. Everybody had to change all kinds of stuff on their cars. Now we're on USRA with all the changes. So maybe we'll have to go back to something and get these cars out of the weeds.
I keep seeing the, I think it's what are they calling the superstock class now?
What is that? I know what you're talking about.
My buddies, the Muskrats, they run that class, and I can't.
The Power Eye.
And I see a bunch of the old drivers that I used to race against running those classes, and I loved running those guys because you went out there and raced at night. Your car come back into the pit. You may have a tire mark on it, maybe a tire mark, and everybody got out of their cars, and you sat around there and chatted for 4 or 5 hours after the races. Yeah. Now you come in after racing, and I really don't call it racing anymore because it's more like a derby. But you come in, and everybody's mad at each other, so nobody goes out and talks to each other, and that
the sportsmanship part is gone. In my opinion, it was lost with the sanctioning.
The reason I started in the racing, it was like a big family.
Oh yeah,
I got my car tore up so bad one night at Tri-State that I'd already put it on the trailer because I didn't have the funds. I didn't have the way to fix it because it needed a lot of parts. I went and got a Coke and come back, and there's like 50 guys on my car putting it back together to get me out there, and it was all guys that I was racing against. And that's the way it used to be. And it's not that way anymore.
It's like I knew who the Slater family was because I grew up watching them. But there was that night at the Spooker that you had 2 or 3 flats in a feature race. You came into the pits, and it was me. I think might have just been me there to change a tire. The next thing I know, the whole Slater family had the car up, and the Conleys, and the car was in the air. The tire was changed, and it was gone. And that's how I met them. Like,
I think one of the Conleys picked the car up.
I wouldn't doubt that a bit.
That was how it used to be, though, and that's lost.
We had Heath. We were running Batesville. We had blew a motor up at Batesville. I was going to have to come all the way back and pull a motor out of my car to take back up there putting Heath. And Kyle found out that we had that problem, blew a motor. His dad said, take them that motor. So they brought their backup motor, and Kyle drove all that night.
Really?
All the way to Batesville, brought up there and helped us put that motor in. And
good people.
They're family to me.
Yeah. Right.
You know, that's family.
That's racing. That's how it started, with the sportsmanship. A bunch of buddies wanting to get out and have fun. And
well, I can guarantee you they could call me anytime. I don't care where they're at. I'd be loaded up heading their way. That's just the way it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned when you started, or guys that you've enjoyed racing with. Can you think back to when you started racing and who some of those guys were back then in the early 80s?
Yeah, that was started out in the Roadrunner class, in which we had Gary Masterson, Victor Koska, Sammy Randolph. Sammy's passed on.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Crazy James Phillips. You know.
Oh, yeah.
You can't forget that name. But it's just those guys back then, they were the same. That's like I said, that was family back then.
They were there.
It wasn't a competitor.
Right.
We were all family, and we all took care of each other like that. But
and back then, you talk about the Roadrunner.
Yeah.
There would be no telling how many cars a night.
It was so much fun back then because the little 9-inch hoop, rule on the tire.
Yeah, you got to hoop the tire on street tires.
You'd see Don Paul Smith over there barring it, bending it, so it's
you might have to lock that out.
Those were just good times.
Oh,
it's just, and I think it was the characters at that time.
Yeah,
because
I think so.
It made it so much fun. It was fun back then.
I always think of, because I'm younger, I think of the 90s as like the prime of dirt track racing in our area. It sounds like to you, maybe the 80s was.
80s and 90s. You had Chuck, you had Rodney Nobles and them, and Billy Hunter Jr. and all them guys. And those were races.
Yeah, you got to run with those. Those were true racers.
Yeah.
They meant
Jerry Lee, and I always loved because he always come out in the '68 RS Camaro.
Beautiful.
And Dusty would paint that thing. The car was too pretty to be on the track.
On the back of it said "Pass with Class."
Yes.
And he meant it too.
He meant it. And them guys, those were drivers.
Right.
Them guys could drive a car. Unbelievable.
And it wasn't going out and buying new shocks every other week or so, or a different set of springs. You worked with what you had.
You went to O'Reilly's or Hammond's.
Hammond's
is where I'd go down there and we'd find a truck shock, to put over on that front and stuff like that. It was
exactly. And all that's changed.
Yeah, if you don't have a $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 set of shocks on there, and some of them's a lot more than that.
Exactly.
Then you get into your motors.
Yeah.
I've run, Rubel's for quite a while, and Jim Rubel is probably one of the best motor builders I have ever seen. And as far as power, unbelievable amount of power, and it's smooth power.
Right.
But what these motors are costing, what we've got in these chassis and cars, I don't even think my first house cost as much as what we're in the race car.
I bet you're right.
It's crazy.
I bet you're right. You talk about back in the day. You got a car out of the salvage yard. You ran what was in it usually. You might stick a cam in it, the intake, or decent carburetor.
I found a Camaro that I had actually got from a guy in Salisaw, which that's hometown. I grew up on Brushy Mountain.
Okay.
My racing career started. My grandpa would take me down to Kenny and
then
Wendell Brewers.
Yeah.
And we were all neighbors there, and I'd go down there and sit there and watch their dad mutt, build motors, big blocks to put in them cars. I'd sit there all day watching them work on them cars. Then we'd go to Sooner Speedway, watch them. Kenny rolled over. I'll never forget that one night, him rolling over, and everybody thinking he's really hurt, and he just pops out of the car. I just thought that, you know, those guys were so cool.
Oh yeah, they were cool.
They didn't
Laid
race.
back, easy
Yeah.
going, and got along.
You didn't see them with these, you know, $5,000 fire suits on. They
Right.
climbed
Oh,
out
yeah.
with a white T-shirt
White
on.
T-shirt.
I never could understand the white pants and stuff.
Right.
You're out there working
I
on
know.
cars and stuff, but they had the white pants
And
and
a
white T-shirt.
open face helmet.
Yep.
No tear offs.
No power steering.
No fire steering.
No power brake. I mean,
Right.
these guys.
They manhandled their cars.
They were men.
They were
men.
They were men. True men.
Yeah, when we first started out, none of my cars had power steering.
Right.
You know, and I remember running 50 to 100 lap races.
Right. Oh yeah.
And they'd have to reach in there and grab you under the arms and pull you out of the car because your arms
couldn't even hold your arms up.
Couldn't even pick them up. But
Man, I drove one night in a mini stock with no power steering, the car that you had, and I would never want to do that again. It was rough.
Brian White, he can't even drive down the road. I guess he run in the concrete in the middle of the other day.
I've seen that.
So
I've seen it. Brian White, I hope you're watching this.
So
I'm gonna change the topic a little bit. Do you have a favorite win or a most memorable win for you or Heath?
I think it was probably it was his first win.
Yeah.
I think that was probably my favorite of all time. But I won one here a couple of years ago in the factory stock, and it was so cool because I got to have pretty much all of them there, you know, and Hoover, I've always really cared for Michael. He's a good guy,
Right.
very good guy. He is all about the racer,
Exactly
and he
right.
tries to do anything he can for the racer.
Right.
But it was just a cool deal because he said, I never thought I'd ever get to take a picture with you like this. And I thought, man, that's pretty cool. I am getting old, so, you know, and it's the time. I know the time's kind of winding down on that, but I'm gonna give him trouble this year.
Oh,
You know,
all out.
I got new health. Got feeling really good on that, so I feel 25 again. My wife didn't like the doctor saying that. Because as soon as he said he's going to feel 25 again, she said, I've already lived through that once. I don't want to do it again. I didn't realize I gave her that much trouble, but I guess I did. But, I feel a little ornery this year.
Well, looking back at all the racing you've done and people you raced with, do you have a hero that you look up to, that you have looked up to most of your life? I know the Brewers, since you were a kid and hung around.
It would probably have to be Wendell and Kenny. Because they're the reason I even wanted to get in a car, you know, and we tried so hard. Dad and Wendell were real good buddies, and we were trying to get Wendell to come up to the track. I want to get Wendell in the car,
right?
You know, which he's like, you know, a little taller than what I am, but
a little.
I was wanting to get him in that car, but he had started getting sick at that time. We wasn't able to get him up there, but that would have been the ultimate deal.
Oh,
I did.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I've got some other guys that, you know, Elvin Tennant, and Elvin's last race he got to race, he run a modified. I don't know how he got in my car, but he had looked at that car, and we had built it at Curtis's and got that thing put together, and Elvin just kept looking at it, and he said, I've always wanted a driving license, we'll take it. And somehow he got in that car, and he called me that night. I was checking on him to see how he done. And I think I can't remember if it's fifth or sixth. Said he run fifth or sixth. I said, holy cow, that's good. And he said, there's only 5 cars. So, you know, but he had a good time. He didn't have to tell me that, you know, but he had a smile on his face from ear to ear, and that was a really cool time. But
you know, you're talking about Wendell wanting him to race, you know. Yeah. Billy Hunter Sr. got the race and won a race, you know, in one of the old Novas. You know, that really was something.
I tell you what, I miss the old Leaf Spring Camaros.
Right.
Those were some.
Does Batesville still have their class for the Camaros?
Yeah. Yeah, and I do get to, you know, Terry Brooks, the Brooks boys that live up there, and we've become really, really good friends through the years, and they've been trying to get me to come up there and drive one of the old Camaros.
There you go.
But,
there you go.
I'm afraid if I get in, I won't ever come back. I'll move to Batesville just so I can drive those.
There needs to be a class like that. Around here, they're going to have to change something up.
we're going to have to get a beginner class.
You
So
know,
we can get the younger kids in a real cheap class to
Right.
get them started. Otherwise, we've got to have them where we can move them up.
where they can learn.
Yes.
You know, they've got the Crown Vic class.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
remember
a
what
good
they call
class.
it, but yeah, I mean that's a good class for them. But they've got everybody racing it now. You know, they start out good.
They start out good. Well, even Cletus, he's running them at, what was it, Daytona?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he has.
Started out good.
Who would ever think that you'd have a 150-mile-an-hour Crown Vic out on the
Right.
Well, he has the I think it's called the Freedom 500 that's coming up in the next couple of weeks, and there's a bunch of celebrities racing it and
Right.
stuff.
Well, that'll be fun too.
So I asked you about your most memorable win. Can you remember one that you say, I should have won that race?
Yes, and I can tell you exactly what. I've never won a spooker or a kegger.
Really,
And my
I thought
son
you had.
has.
Mm.
You know, and he rubs it into me really hard. We had it was a spooker, and it was me, Randy Russell, and Randy Elliott. I was running third and had got a really good run, and passed them both on the high side.
Really?
And I mean, had a good run and going. And I come around and threw a red. I think it's the only red I had ever seen at Tri-State that whole year. And I had to go back to third where they knew where I'd passed them at, so they used the track up then. I didn't get another chance to get another
tough
run.
competition right there. Too.
How long ago was that?
That was in the Roadrunner days.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say if it was recent, we're gonna have Chris Hiley on soon. Maybe you had a bone to pick with him, but I guess
I don't even remember who was flagging back then, but boy, I wasn't real happy with him. I thought, you know, the wreck wasn't bad enough for a red, but a red got thrown, and
They pick it on you.
But who knows?
Right.
Yeah, you always think that they're picking on you when
yeah.
it comes to something like that. They're not. You know, I've sat up there and helped this last year when I wasn't able to get in the car and watched, and there is no way. You know, people get so mad at the flagmen, they get mad at the officials and stuff. There's so much going on that it's really hard.
That's a big track to
keep
watch.
up
That's a
with.
big
Yes.
area and a lot of cars.
Yeah, so I gained a whole different respect for those officials and everything now, just by being up there and trying to help them watch it out. But you know, there's definitely a lot that goes on.
Yeah. Before we finish, do you want to take a couple minutes and tell us about your business and what you do and where
Your
people can find?
sponsors.
Yeah.
I've got Schoenfield headers. They've been with me ever since. You cannot beat the Schoenfields.
Yeah, you can't go wrong without them.
They've been basically like family all
Right.
this year. You know, Doug, Dennis, and Don. They've anytime I've ever needed anything, they get up here. Or if I run a header they're used to. You know, you put a header on, you kept that header on there because you could afford to go buy another one. I have taken headers up there just to try to get them to fix them. They, look at me like, how long have you had that on that car? 24 years. Well, you don't do that. The technology on those things is so unbelievable year to year. But they have always taken care of me on stuff like that. But basically them and me, I've always pretty much sponsored all my cars. I did many years ago, had K&L Pond, Ken Faulkner, and he sponsored that car every year. He's such a good man. Which it was K&L Pond at that time.
I remember that.
And but that's basically the only sponsors I've ever had on any of my cars. So we've got a few small ones.
Yeah.
And I think Heath has got, we got Stu's Clean Cooking.
Oh, those are some good guys over there. Yeah.
And he's an excellent guy.
Yes, he is.
A good dude. But other than that, just Ryan Taylor helps me out with my shocks and stuff like that. So can't beat him. And then you always got, our little buddy on the carburetor. So Scott.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott's one that anytime I have ever yelled, he pretty much drops what he's doing, gets over there and adjusts. So
great service.
Cannot beat Scott. But those guys right there, I got my help. Bill Daggs, he's been with me ever since we started racing.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
His dad used to help Charlie Blue
with
late models many years ago, and then me and Bill's we've been best friends forever. But he's always out there changing tires or whatever, whatever it needs. He's right up in the middle of it. But that's about the only ones.
So your place is called Philpot Complete Car Care Center. What services do you provide?
We transmission work. I've got to the point where I build all the transmissions now. I tried hiring people to do that. Well, it
bites you sometimes.
It bites you a lot of times, but I just decided I need to be doing them myself and take care of that. Do engine work. I've got the quick lube right next door, so got some good guys over there. But it's been a living, and it's fed my family. And
how many years?
Since '93.
93. Yeah, long time.
Long time.
33 years.
Man, time goes by so fast.
Yeah, it sure does.
I think when we first met, we were young.
Oh yeah, a long time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I have one more question for you. Pretend it's the last race you ever get to run. You get to choose what class, what era the cars are from, and 5 competitors. You and 5 competitors. So what car are you racing and who are you racing against?
I would go back to the old Roadrunner class. That, to me, that was the highlight.
Best competition.
Best kind. We had Freddie Hogarth, Sutherland, which Gary Masterson. Saw Gary the other day. He's looking really well. It's really hard to just pick one. It's a lot of fun running Chuck Knight. Being able to race against him, and it's which Chuck was running Grand National at that time. But then the Hunter boys, it's hard to just pick one or two, because I've been going out there since 80, 84, 85. So I've had the pleasure of getting to race with a lot of really good guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of good guys, but I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world.
Well,
I've been blessed to be able to do it.
I think that's a good note to end on. Thank you for joining us today. It's been a great conversation.
We've had a lot to talk about.
We may have more.
Maybe you can come back sometime.
That'll work, man.